Francis Lee, the man who ruled the pitch, had a life filled with triumphs and troubles. But did his ambitions lead to his tragic end? Let's explore the life of Franny Lee, footballer, businessman, and ultimately, a man whose legacy is both admired and questioned. Born in Westhoughton, Lancashire in 1944, Francis Henry Lee emerged from the heartland of English football. From his early days, Lee showed sporting promise, excelling in both football and cricket at local schools. His father played a key role in his upbringing, pushing him to plan for life beyond the game, advice that would shape his future in unexpected ways. Lee's journey into professional football began spectacularly. At just 16 years old, he made his debut for Bolton Wanderers in 1960 against none other than Manchester City. Initially listed as a Mr. F.H. Lee, due to his amateur status, he was paid only for working on the ground staff, painting and sweeping, rather than playing football. He signed professional terms in May 1961. At Bolton, Lee quickly showed his talents. He developed from a winger into a powerful striker, becoming the club's top scorer in the First Division during the 1962-63 season. But Bolton was heading downward, getting relegated to the Second Division in 1964. Lee's fierce ambition was already evident. By 1967, he felt his talents deserved a bigger stage than Bolton's Second Division status. He demanded a transfer and even threatened to strike when refused. After scoring in 7 straight matches at the start of the 1967-68 season, his wish was finally granted. Manchester City manager Joe Mercer paid a club record fee to bring Lee to Main Road. The move to Manchester City proved the perfect stage for Lee's talents. Mercer famously called Lee the final piece in the jigsaw, a statement that proved remarkably accurate. His impact at City was immediate and profound. In his very first season, he scored 16 goals in 31 league appearances, including the vital 4th goal in the final day for 2-3 victory against Newcastle that clinched the 1967-68 First Division Championship. Lee formed 1/3 of Manchester City's iconic attacking Holy Trinity alongside Colin Bell and Mike Summerbee. This trio became Manchester's blue response to United's famed Best, Law, and Charlton combination. During this golden period, it was City's trio, spearheaded by Lee's goals and tenacity, that wrestled domestic dominance away from their rivals. The period between 1967 and 1974 marked an era of unprecedented success for Manchester City, with Lee at its heart. Following the First Division title in 1968, the club secured the FA Cup in 1969, with Lee scoring crucial goals on the way to the final. Then came the League Cup in 1970, and most significantly, the European Cup Winners' Cup that same year. Lee often proved to be the man for big occasions. In the European Cup Winners' Cup final, his decisive penalty helped City defeat Polish side Górnik Zabórz 2-1 in Vienna. His goal-scoring record at City was remarkable for its consistency. He finished as the club's top scorer for 5 consecutive seasons, from 1969-70 to 1973-74. In total, he netted 148 goals in 330 appearances for the club. But with success came controversy. The nickname that became most linked with Francis Lee, Lee One Pen, took hold during the remarkable 1971-72 season. That year, Lee scored an exceptional 33 goals for Manchester City, but it was how many of these goals came about that drew widespread comment. An astonishing 15 of his goals came from the penalty spot, setting a British record for penalties scored in a single season. This unprecedented statistic led to intense scrutiny. The nickname itself reportedly came from journalists and how his name frequently appeared in Sunday newspaper results with "Pen" written after it. It quickly became a way to suggest Lee was prone to diving or using theatrics to win penalties. Lee consistently denied the accusations and expressed frustration with the nickname. He argued that accusing an attacker of diving was an easy excuse for defenders who rarely admitted fault for conceding a penalty. The label genuinely bothered him, perhaps because it questioned his integrity or unfairly took away from his impressive goal-scoring achievements. 33 goals in a season was remarkable, regardless of how many came from penalties. But if the Lee One Pen tag was built on statistics and perception, his on-pitch fight with Leeds United's Norman Hunter was a raw, aggressive explosion that became one of the most infamous incidents in English football history. The stage was Derby County's baseball ground on November 1, 1975, during a First Division match between Derby and Leeds. The context was already tense. Leeds and Derby shared a rivalry made worse by previous clashes between managers Don Revie and Brian Clough. Earlier in the game, Lee had won a penalty for Derby after being fouled by Hunter and event that likely increased the tension between them. In the second half, Lee and Hunter exchanged punches in an off-the-ball incident. Referee Derek Nippard stopped play and took both players' names, but hostilities immediately flared again. Hunter landed a punch, and Lee fought back near the touchline. Both players were shown red cards. As they were being escorted off by club officials, they engaged in a second round of fighting. The aftermath was vividly recalled by Lee's Derby teammate, Roy McFarland. He described Lee as absolutely raging in the dressing room, needing stitches for a split lip. McFarland remembered Lee's furious declaration, "Get out of my way, Roy, I'm going to kill that B-asked Hunter," and the struggle needed to hold back the angry striker. The repercussions were immediate. Lee received a 4-week suspension for his part in the brawl. The fight became notorious, frequently replayed on television, and forever linking the two players in football folklore. Beyond the pitch, Lee's life took equally dramatic turns. His business acumen was evident from an early stage of his playing career. He established F.H. Lee Limited in 1966, while still playing for Bolton Wanderers, following his father's advice to plan for the future. The company began with humble waste paper collection before strategically expanding into manufacturing tissue products. The company became widely known for producing toilet rolls, kitchen towels, and handkerchiefs, later diversifying into aluminum foil and cling film, eventually supplying most major UK retailers. Starting and growing a successful manufacturing business while performing as a top-flight international footballer showed exceptional foresight and energy. F.H. Lee Limited thrived, growing significantly after Lee's retirement from football. By 1978, the Bolton-based company employed between 80 and 100 people. The company's success ultimately made Francis Lee a multimillionaire. In 1984 or 1985, F.H. Lee Limited was sold for a reported £8.35 million, giving Lee a personal profit of £6 million. Leveraging his business success, Lee pursued another passion, horse racing. He worked as a successful racehorse trainer from 1984 until 1996, training the winners of 181 races across Britain and Ireland. Respected jockey Willie Carson described him as quite a good trainer who had a proper team of horses at one point. In 1994, Francis Lee returned to Manchester City, but this time as chairman. His takeover came amid significant fan disappointment with the previous chairman, Peter Swales. A vocal supporter movement, called Forward with Franny, backed Lee's bid for control. Using the fortune from his business success, Lee purchased £3 million worth of shares, ousting Swales and becoming the club's major shareholder and chairman. He arrived at Main Road as a returning hero, carrying the hopes of supporters desperate for success. Lee had bold ambitions to reinvigorate City and establish them as a force in the Premier League. However, the reality of his 4-year tenure was starkly different from these initial hopes. His chairmanship showed the difficulties when a club legend returns in a leadership role. The huge expectations created by past playing glory proved hard to meet, especially given the different skills needed for executive management compared to playing or business. The period was marked by instability and poor decision-making, particularly regarding manager appointments. A series of managers, including Alan Ball, Steve Coppell, and Frank Clark, failed to deliver success, contributing to the club's decline. Lee himself later admitted the failings of his board, stating, "If cups were awarded for cock-ups, you would not be able to move in City's boardroom." The same powerful ambition that drove Lee's success as a player and businessman seemed to work against him as chairman. Instead of challenging at the top, Manchester City spiraled downward. The club was relegated from the Premier League under his leadership. The situation got worse, and by the time Lee stepped down in February 1998, City were dangerously close to suffering another relegation to the third tier of English football. Francis Lee passed away in Manchester on October 2, 2023, at the age of 79. His death followed a lengthy battle with cancer, identified in some reports as lung cancer. News of his passing brought tributes from across the football world, reflecting his significant impact on the game. Manchester City honoured him by flying flags at half-mast around the Etihad Stadium and City Football Academy. Bolton Wanderers paid respects with a minute's applause before their next home game and wore black armbands. Derby County also issued condolences. Tributes came from former teammates, senior figures at his clubs, and rival fans acknowledging his prowess. Francis Lee's story is one of fierce ambition, controversy, and triumph. A man who built a legacy on the pitch only to see it marred by missteps in the boardroom. His passing marks the end of an era, but his name will always be synonymous with Manchester City.